Noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is CarEdge Live for Tuesday, July 15th, with your hosts, me, Ray, and, well, that good-looking guy wearing that good-looking T-shirt, Zach. How are you today, handsome?
Happy Tuesday, everyone. I am fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of CarEdge Live. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Delete Me. Link in the top of the description. We're going to talk about them in about 10 minutes. And before then, Dad,
Yes.
a friendly reminder to everyone in our community that if you want to buy a car without the headache, you want to be informed, you want to be knowledgeable, you want to get a great deal, go ahead and go over to CarEdge.com and start your car shopping and research process over there. You can also track your vehicle's value, get insurance quotes, save money on a vehicle warranty as well. And of course, skip the dealership with our car buying services. Now, Dad,
Yes.
that being said, the topic and title of today's show is about the summer 2025 car market meltdown. We've got all sorts of great new data from Cox Automotive, and I'm going to start here, Pops, with the average transaction price of new cars actually going up a little bit in the month of June. KBB telling us that new vehicle costs increased in June, outpacing transaction prices as sales slowed, and we're starting to see incentives tick up. Then, Dad, we're going to turn our attention to new vehicle inventory. You can see here, new vehicle inventory grows as sales flatten, tariff impact still minimal. I know you've had a chance to review both of these data sets. What were your key takeaways before we dig into the numbers?
You're assuming I actually read this stuff? Well, I did. Okay. The thing that shocked me the most is the amount of incentives as a percentage of the discount. And right now, I think, if I remember correctly, it's sitting at about 6.8% of the 6.9% of the total transaction is covered by incentives from the manufacturer. The thing that I find disturbing is, even though those incentives ticked up slightly, they are still well below the 8% that we saw back in April, okay, or September of last year. So we had seen the gap between transaction price and incentive closing over the past several years, almost getting back to where it had been in the past, which was somewhere around 11 to 12% of the transaction price. The fact that the manufacturers are not putting as much money towards incentives, even though they ticked up slightly, is actually irrelevant when it's compared to where it had historically been prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, Dad. Now, the one area where incentives are increasing significantly would be for electric vehicles. So I'll pull that up on the screen. EV incentives move higher for the second consecutive month and reached a new record of 14.8% of the average transaction price, or more than $8,400. So think about that for a moment, folks. You want to go buy an EV, the manufacturer is incentivizing you to the tune of 15% of the vehicle's MSRP, or $8,400, just to try and get that vehicle sold. But to your point, Dad, for the industry overall, which really, really shines a light when you think about how much EVs would be hoisting up this 6.9%. The industry used to be at over 10% of the average transaction price was made up in the form of manufacturer incentive. And right now it's at 6.9%. How long can this last, however? Because the market meltdown really is seen in the new vehicle inventory data. I'm going to scroll down quickly here, Dad. 2.83 million vehicles in dealer inventory, new vehicles at the end of June, on June 30th. Dad, that was a 400,000 unit increase.
Yes.
Month over month, July opened at 2.83 million new vehicles available on dealer lots across the U.S., representing a 14.5% increase from 2.47 million units measured at the beginning of June. So inventory grew by 15%, 14.5%. Incentives went up very, very little. How long can this last? Because these vehicles, we know, are not selling. And we've heard from everyone, Dad, in every corner of the country and every different manufacturer, sales are slow here in July. So those incentives will have to come back eventually, right?
One would assume. Because typically
Huh.
when inventories build and sales slow down, um, the thing that normally happens is either incentives go up or dealer discounts go up because dealers become much more motivated to sell the vehicles because, well, the cost of carrying that inventory has been skyrocketing.
Yep.
That's normal. Those are normal times. I don't know that we're in normal times. Yes, you would think that dealers are going to get a little panicky, but we we know and they know that July is going to be slow.
Yeah.
August is going to be slow. Um, the only saving grace for any of these manufacturers could be the increase in EV sales. So where the incentive is already 14.8% of the transaction price, that number could go up because people are going to want to take advantage of being able to buy an EV by September 30th when the federal tax credits
Yeah.
go away. So maybe EVs will be a little bit of a saving grace for the overall auto industry between now and September 30th. But here's the thing you really need to think about.
Huh.
If EV incentives were at almost 15% and the industry average was 6.9%, if you took out the EVs, where would it really be?
Yeah.
Would it be below 6%?
The industry
So,
average for incentives right now is terribly. I mean, it's not hyperbolic to say historically low. It's not as low as it was during the pandemic, but relative to where we were back in 2016, 17, 18, 19, it's historically low
and
for new car
why
purchases.
why do you think that may be? I have my thinking as to why. Why do you think it may be?
I don't know. My hands get thrown up in the air, Dad. What's your rationale for why manufacturers are not incentivizing the purchase of their vehicles as inventories balloon back up?
Because they can't both eat incentives eat tariffs and increase incentives at the same time. It basically becomes it's one or the other. Okay. And so far, and that was part of the headline, we have seen a minimal impact from incentives.
From
That's
tariffs. From
because the
tariffs.
manufacturers, for the most part, have eaten those incentives. Well, you can't eat the incentive. The
Tariffs.
tariff. I'm sorry. You can't eat the tariff plus increase the incentive. It's going to be an either or. And so right now, for the time being, and this could change at any time moving forward. Right now, the concept is we're going to eat the tariff. You're going to have to figure out how to make the car affordable.
Yeah, exactly. That's so interesting, Dad. And I do want to just reiterate here there is a bit of a market meltdown happening, and I think will be exacerbated in the near future. This was just a couple weeks ago, excuse me. Second half sales slump expected following a strong Q2. This is from Automotive News. And what I want to show you here, these are the seasonally adjusted annual run rate of vehicles sold in the United States. And for the month of June, we were down to 15.65 million vehicles sold, down from the high water mark by more than 2 million vehicles from March, Dad, when we were at 17.82 million vehicles expected to have sold during the year. So we're talking about, folks, more than 2 million fewer vehicles being sold, an increase of 15% of new vehicle inventory in just 30 days, and manufacturers not being able to pull that lever of incentives because they can't afford it, to my dad's point, because tariff costs have increased on them. This is a recipe for Q3, Q4 disaster for the auto industry. You know, it is not a disaster, however, Pops, that would be the fact that we are working with our partner, Delete Me, Dad. Did you
Yes.
know that there are data brokers out there selling your information online and anyone can buy it? Things like your social security number, home address, email, and more are sold online, and they're available to marketers, scammers, and
Everyone in between.
man, I love it when we hit that right. Delete
Yeah.
Me, however, helps you take control over your data. And Delete Me is the sponsor of today's show. Delete Me removes your personal information from hundreds of data brokers on your behalf. My dad and I both use Delete Me every single day. Delete Me is tracking the internet, removing our personal information from those interwebs. You can get started today and use the coupon code CarEdge at checkout to save 20%, or go to joindeleteme.com/CarEdge. The link is in the top of the description. And we thank Delete Me for their continued sponsorship of this program. You can see just in the month of July, Dad, Delete Me's removed my listings information from 40 different vendors. Appreciate the fine work that the folks over at Delete Me do. So back to the data, Pops.
Yes.
This is setting up to be fairly catastrophic. And this is coming from the guy who always uses this, big words and whatnot and is hyperbolic. But I did not see new vehicle inventory increasing 15% during the month of June. That was not on my bingo card. This is a significant increase in inventory, and it's happening across all of the manufacturers. We'll look at that data broken down by manufacturer in just a second. The increase in inventory is significantly greater than I had anticipated, and I think speaks volumes to the slowdown in sales.
Oh, absolutely, it does. When your average day supply for the nation jumps from 72 days to 82 days in a monthly time period, that's pretty significant. That's a pretty big increase. You would not normally expect to see a 400,000 unit increase in vehicles in the inventory over a 30-day period of time, especially when we know that more and more of that inventory is 2026 model vehicles. And 2026 model vehicles, we know, are having price increases because you can't go from, say, a 2024 to a 2025 without a price increase. And you're certainly not going to go from a 2025 to a 2026 without that price increase, especially when you're using the price increase in the next model year at a slightly higher level than normal to help offset the tariffs, because they don't want to say, well, we're raising our prices because of tariffs. So we are, as we see that 2026 inventory continue to grow, average transaction prices are going to continue to go up. Average MSRPs are going to continue to go up. And the one thing for certain, I think, that's going to go down are sales. And may I just add that with today's inflation report, where inflation was a little higher than what everybody had hoped it would be, the idea of the Fed cutting interest rates anytime soon probably went out the window, because the reason they don't want to lower interest rates is they don't want to heat up inflation. Well, inflation's already heating up.
So, Dad, to one point you mentioned, which is more 2026 vehicles landing on dealer lots, you and I recently looked at the data and did a video over on the main CarEdge channel talking about how actually fewer 2026 vehicles are on dealer lots right now than in years prior. So there's actually a slower rollout of those 2026s. And some brands, for example, like Honda, have yet to even roll out, at the time we filmed that video, it's like 2 weeks ago, bring in any 2026s to the market at all. And so you've got to imagine here, they're slow playing that, but it is happening. 2026 model year vehicles are making their way to those dealers' lots. And as that happens and the prior 2024s and 2025s don't sell, plus the more expensive 2026s get layered on top, it's like a multi-layered cake here. No one's eating the first layer, the second layer, or the third layer. And those vehicles ultimately just sit. And if you could just put this into perspective, because for those that don't know, we don't say it often enough. My dad ran dealerships for 40 plus years. If your days supply, Dad, or if your inventory grew by 15% month over month, I'm thinking back to when you worked at the Acura dealership in Scottsdale, Arizona. If your inventory jumped by 15% month over month, what type of conversation are you having with your owner, with your vice president? Like, how are you handling as a sales manager a 15% jump in inventory amidst a time when you can read the tea leaves and you can see, hey, sales day over day are slowing down? What are you doing?
Well, I kind of sort of remember a similar type of situation where I really kept track of my rolling inventory by model. And I noticed that, I think it was 2007 or 2008, that the amount of TLs that were being allocated to us at the dealership well exceeded our sales rate. And it was only because, well, they kept building them, not recognizing that sales were slowing down. And it was like, well, we're just going to give them to the dealers, whether they really want them or not. And I remember having found a dealer in California that was willing to buy 30 of them from me. I had so much excess TL inventory that I thought it made the most sense to sell some of it. And the area vice president said, well, check with the zone manager and see what he thinks. Well, I don't know why I checked with the zone manager to see what he thinks. I already know what he thinks. He's the son of a gun that made sure I got too many cars to begin with. He doesn't want them in his inventory. He wants them in the dealer's inventory. So the zone manager was, you better not be selling cars out of our zone into another zone. When you need something, I'm not going to be there for you. Love that kind of threat. And so it was decided by those higher up than me that, okay, we won't sell the cars. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later when all the cars really started piling up and what I thought was going to happen happened, when my area vice president came to me and said, get on the horn with those dealers in California and see if they'll buy the cars. Well, at that time, reality had set in and they weren't buying the cars from me either. So
to a degree, Dad, you've lived through this before. You've seen this movie where inventory builds up and month over month can increase by 10, 15, 20%. And it ends up becoming a bit of a fire sale at the end of it. Like, what'd you guys end up doing with all those Acura TLs?
I made it real simple for customers. I had a whiteboard at the reception desk that listed pricing for the TLs. And it was, you pick the TL, it's invoice plus $200 less any factory incentives. That was it. It was pretty simple. It was cut and dried. It was better than Ford's employee pricing. You picked the car, we showed you the invoice, we added $200, and then we subtracted out whatever incentives we had from Acura, which were pretty substantial at that time. And that really wasn't enough to move the needle either, because we found ourselves in a situation where we were just overloaded with cars and we had an under influx of customers. And so sometimes you can see the writing on the wall, and that was a time when being proactive was the right thing to do. And instead we ended up being reactive.
Were you surprised, Dad, that inventory grew by 15% during the month of June?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
me
mean, I suspected, and I had said all along that I thought June was going to be a relatively slow month. But I also suspected that the manufacturers were well aware of it. I mean, it's been written about in every automotive industry publication. So there would be no way for the good folks at any of these manufacturers not to have an understanding of what the market conditions were. Yet, even with that knowledge, they continued to produce more vehicles than they needed and shipped more vehicles to their dealer partners. So it was just really, it's almost the perfect storm, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also am now thinking about yesterday's show where we talked about General Motors obviously shutting down one of their production plants.
Yes.
I anticipate we'll see more and more of these manufacturers pulling back on the production of vehicles. For example, the Dodge Hornet not going to be produced in 2026, for example. So, hey, let's look at some more data and then let's switch gears, Dad. We'll come to the chat as well. Now, one other thing is we have the days supply of inventory broken down by manufacturer. So this is how many days it would take to sell all available inventory based on current sales rate. And like my dad said earlier, the nationwide average is 82 days. That is up from 70 days just a month prior. And as y'all know, the magic number here is somewhere between 60 and 90. The industry is happy when there's about a 60 days supply of inventory. It means that they have a lot of pricing power and their inventory is turning every 60 days very quickly. Once we start to get above 90, you have an oversupply of inventory and not enough customers. Yes. And so you can see here, Toyota, Lexus, Honda, BMW, Chevrolet, Subaru, and GMC are the brands that have an 82 days or lower supply of inventory. Toyota and Lexus at about 40 days supply, Honda at 61, BMW at 66, Chevy at 72, Subaru at 78, and GMC at 80. On the other end of the spectrum, Dad, you have Audi. Audi has the highest days supply aside from Jaguar, which is not even on the list, at 130 days. That is the one that is all the way over here. Audi, right there, 133 days supply. They are in first place and by a lot in terms of the most oversupplied inventory. And we also know, Dad, from having recently done the fastest and slowest selling vehicles in the United States, Audi has 3 of the top 5 slowest selling vehicles in the United States right now. If you haven't watched that video over on the CarEdge main channel or gone to caredge.com/slowest, that's where you can see that data. I mean, Audi, Dad, looking like they're in a really bad position right now. Same with Dodge with 118 days supply. Mazda, 117 days supply. Ram and Hyundai with 114 and 113 days supply, respectively. I mean, there are quite a few brands here, Dad.
Yes.
Double digits that have over a 100 days supply right now, which means meltdown, which means shopping opportunity.
But the dilemma for most of these manufacturers, as we said earlier, is either they eat the tariff or they give you a larger incentive, but they can't do both. And so they're trying to balance eating the tariff and having a modest incentive. And at some point, something's going to have to change. What changes, will that be the incentives? They will finally be forced to dramatically increase the incentives to move the product, to move the needle on the product. Or what I think will happen is we will see MSRP increases and larger incentives, a combination of the two.
And let's hone in on Audi for a minute, Dad. I mean, it's worth it. They're in pole position right now for worst in terms of an oversupply of inventory and lack of customers. And so let's go and let's look at Audi. Let's say you're in the market for an Audi. We were in Ashland, Kentucky yesterday, so we'll stay in Ashland here. And let's just get a little pulse check on what the Audi market looks like in Ashland, Kentucky. You're interested in, okay, probably not an RS Q8 at $161,000. I don't want to do a Q3. I want to either do like a Q5 or one of their sedans. Here we go, Q5. Let's get a little temperature check, Dad. First things first, 277 days on the market. It's a long time for a car to be advertised for sale.
Well, it is indeed, but maybe they don't sell in Charleston, West Virginia. I don't know.
We're about to find out. $51,995 MSRP, $48,875 dealer invoice price. You can see the target discount range that CarEdge is suggesting. And let's scroll down here. Only a 90-day supply for this particular make and model in trim. One is sold in the last 45 days, 2 for sale. Something tells me the sample size here in West Virginia is not going to be that massive. Let's do a slightly different zip code. Why don't we go to our old 85254? This is Scottsdale, Arizona.
It is indeed.
Let's take a peek at what the Audi market looks like in Scottsdale, Arizona. RS7s. We don't want an RS7, RSQ8. That's a good-looking RS6 Avant.
Ooh.
Jeez Louise. Come on, give me some normal cars here. All right, we'll do one of these Q3s. We'll do one of those Q3s in a moment, and let's go. Let's find something else. An A8, Dad?
A8s sit forever.
And an A6.
A8s are boat anchors.
All right, let's look at an A6. $72,000 price point, $67,742 invoice. Only a 101 days supply. You know what? I thought it was going to be significantly worse than that on that particular
May
vehicle.
I suggest where you will find most A8s?
Huh.
They will be literally the boat anchor for those $100 million plus yachts out there. Jeff Bezos probably has dueling A8s as anchors for his big ass yacht.
2025 Audi Q3 S-Line Premium Plus, $47,000 MSRP, $44,251 invoice. Drum roll, please. Here we go. 302 days supply. 7 have sold in the last 45 days, 47 for sale right now. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the page. Let's see incentives. These incentives I don't think are going to move the needle, Dad. 5.99% financing for 36 months, 7.15% effective APR on the lease. That's not going to do it, Dad. That's not going to move the metal. That A8,
yes,
$101,000 MSRP, $95,000 invoice price. There we go. 405 days supply of inventory in Scottsdale, Arizona. So if you're Audi, man, to your point, you're probably going to have to increase those incentives to move these vehicles that are obviously not selling.
Well, at some point you're going to have to. Now, so far they have held off. I'm sure the Audi dealers out there are going, okay, why?
Yeah.
And whatever Audi customers there might be are going, well, they can't hold out much longer. We can hold out longer than they can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as my area vice president used to always say, the only reason somebody hasn't bought the car yet, hasn't said yes yet, is because you haven't lowered the price enough. I mean, that's what sells distressed merchandise.
And that's what this is, distressed merchandise.
Oh, absolutely it is, especially when the brand has a 133-day supply.
Which, for those of you who've been following us for years, this is one of those swings back in a buyer's market direction. We just did a couple weeks ago our summer car market assessment, and we said it was a pretty good time for in the new car market. It's about to go from pretty good time to great time.
Yeah,
it's swinging very rapidly from a seller's market to a buyer's market, and obviously we'll keep our hands on the pulse of that as much as possible. Dad, let's come here to the chat for a couple minutes. Earlier in the show from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. Mercedes-Benz GLC 350e PHEV giveaway. $63,000 sticker price, $2,200 down, $299 a month for a 13-month, 7,500-mile lease in LA. Also getting screwed by Porsche, $3,600 tariff boost.
Wow.
On his new 718 GTS. That is an insane lease deal. $299 a month.
I'm not real fond of Mercedes-Benz, but I just might have to go to LA and get one of those for 13 months. I mean, what the heck? $300.
To your point, Dad, manufacturers either choosing increasing incentives or they're going to eat some of the tariff costs. Here's Porsche. They're not eating the tariff costs. They're passing on to Matthew a $3,600 price increase.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Matthew?
Well, Matthew's probably in a good mood. Thank you, Matthew, because tomorrow he's departing for his annual BMW Nürburgring trip. So have some fun, Matthew. Hopefully we'll get some photos in our email inbox. Dad, we also had a thoughtful contribution come in from Shannon. So good to see you, Shannon. Able to stop by the live show today, wave and say hi. Great info and entertaining matter. You guys have a great day. Right back at you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shannon,
for being here. And from Rich, thank you, Rich. We appreciate it. Read that China has 130 different EV manufacturers, but only 10 to 15% are profitable. Something about Chinese capitalism. So yeah, maybe there's some edge happening over there that's subvented by the government. Either way, the EV market here in the U.S. is definitely struggling.
There is the supposition in China that out of those 130 brands, like maybe 15 to 20 will actually survive.
Wow.
So you're looking at 110 to 115 EV brands that evaporate.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And we know, obviously, EV sales here in the United States, I hate to say it, but sort of evaporating as well. A friendly reminder, folks, back at CarEdge.com, we have all sorts of products and services to help you purchase your next vehicle. In particular, skip the dealership. Let us actually do the work for you. That being said, Dad, Phil on our team, he spearheaded a new initiative, which is providing lease money factors available for free to consumers, to researchers out there. If you Google search CarEdge Money Factors, the first link right here, Money Factor Explained, see this month's lease buy rates. If you click on that, you're going to be taken to this page. And on this page, Dad, you can put in any vehicle. I'll do a Mazda because you recently got a Mazda.
Yes, we'll CX-30.
CX-30. And then you can click View Money Factors. And again, folks, this is 100% free. There's no gotchas, no gimmicks. And you will now be able to see the money factors and APR equivalent for all the trim levels for that particular vehicle. So this is really good information. I don't know where else you can get this online for free. And it's available back at CarEdge.com, or, of course, just Google search CarEdge Money Factors. And then you can plug this information into our free lease calculator as well, which makes it really nice and nifty. It'll pull over all that information for you. So I don't know, y'all. Really impressed with what our team has created here on the leasing side to just provide as much information as possible to consumers out there, trying to make it more accessible. What do you make of that, Pops?
I love that. Nicely done, Phil. That's tough information to gather. The fact that you were able to gather it, that we can share it with people, and just to give you some idea as to what it means. When I got mine in March, the money factor was 0.00061 or 41, not 00305.
Yeah, it's gone up significantly.
Yes, and there's an example of we either eat the tariff and no longer have really cheap interest rates on a lease, or we'll give you the cheap interest rate on the lease, but the price of the car is going up. One of the two.
One of the two. It's like that game where you put the ball under one of the cups and you move it around. You got to follow the ball. Like it's somewhere there. There's still, you got to follow it. It's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, let's come back here to the chat. Some really thoughtful contributions. Matthew, thank you. Have to be happy. I can't take it with me. Can't wait to see
if I may piggyback on that, Matthew, I couldn't agree more. I tell my children all the time, I'm doing my best to make sure that your inheritance is as small as possible.
Yep, we appreciate that every time you share it, Dad. From Donald here. Thank you, Donald. Was able to score a lease deal on a 2024 new. So again, just going to hone in on this. There are still new 2024s and a lot of them on dealer lots that you can get great deals on, like this one. $504 a month for 24 months, 12,000 miles a year, and no money down.
Wow.
Thoughts? Would have to plug that into the lease calculator, but I'm thinking a 2024 brand new Cadillac Lyriq has an MSRP above $50,000. Just doing a little back of the napkin math here. I think you're at a really, really nice monthly payment,
especially for just 24 months.
Yeah. Congratulations, Donald. Hope you're happy there as well. And a friendly reminder that back on CarEdge.com, one of the resources you can use to kind of get a sense for if you got a good deal, bad deal, somewhere in between, click on research, click on see what others paid. This is where our CarEdge concierges actually submit all of their deals here, so you can see the exact deals that we're able to secure for our customers, and you can see what community members have done as well. It's a great resource, and I encourage you to use this page, submit your deals, and check what others in our community have done as well. Resources like this only exist back at CarEdge.com, and the incredible team that wakes up every day working on these solutions to try and empower our community.
Indeed.
Dad, let's give Scott a quick shout out. Congratulations, getting the new Crosstrek Wilderness in an hour or so. Grateful that we were able to help you with the research and the pricing. That's what we're here to do. And then earlier in the show, Dad Igor saying most dealers I'm talking to already expressed that July is slower than June for the first half of the month. So yeah, we'll be keeping our eyes on this and reporting on it, and obviously sharing what our concierge team are able to negotiate for customers as well. Probably some bigger discounts here. So it'll be exciting to share what we're seeing on that front. Okay, I got to catch a train, so let's call it a show for today. I'm doing the show from New York tomorrow, but then by your side Thursday and Friday, which I can't wait for, Dad.
I am looking forward to that as well. I found our whiteboard. I bought an easel. I bought the dry erase markers. We will have some incredible content for our viewers out there moving forward after we get to spend Thursday and Friday together. And for those of you who can't get enough of me and my dear friend Brandon from Car Questions Answered, CarSense will be going live today at about 1:30. So you might want to check that out to see what Brandon and I will be discussing later on today.
All right, Pops. Everyone go tune in over there. Check out CarEdge.com, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Love you, Dad.
Love you too, handsome. Thank you, everybody, for being here.